Today is a little life update, a juicy dive into something that's really on my heart. And in the age of AI, I'm going to be talking about three important traits that I think are critical for you to stand out in the coaching industry right now. And that is transparency, vulnerability, and then one more that I dive deep into inside of this week's episode. Welcome to this week's episode of The Best Damn Coach. Well, this episode can be most summed up by a life update, a thing I'm feeling in my gut and soul that needs to be shared, and just a general call to action for you to really think about what I'm going to be sharing today and how it relates to how you're showing up now in your business and how you want to show up in the future of your business. So a little context, and definitely stick around because I'm going to give you 4 very actionable steps to implement what I'm talking about today, even though it feels a little bit intangible and you may not know, but how do I do this in my business? So let's rewind the clock a little bit just to share some decisions I've made in my business over the years as far as where I'm going to, invest in my own growth and in my growth of my business. And something that I continually do is set money aside for yearly investments in my business. So many years ago, it was first coaches. And then as I grew, I realized I wanted to be in some mastermind rooms because it's great exposure to a wide room. And I had great experience in those. And then COVID hit, which kind of made it weird for a while because a lot of those groups weren't in existence. And then at that time is when transitions in my business happened. And I decided, okay, I'm actually not going to invest in being in lots of rooms. I don't want like this slinging of opinions at me while I'm making these big decisions in my business. I really wanted to be firm and trust my gut. And so after that, I was really clear that the mentorship I needed was in a specific skill set. And so I've been spending the last couple of years under the mentorship of somebody around webinar and workshop development and growth. And that's been a strong leverage in my business, or a strong lever, I would say, I've been pulling harder year after year. However, what I was missing during this time was a community of women to be around. And so I found myself at the end or middle of 2024 kind of talking to Justin and saying, all right, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to be back in a mastermind, specifically in a space where there's like travel involved. I wanted to go away and work on my business and be in a room of women that were similar or at least like-minded. And so I end up going to this random event in Phoenix that I really didn't know anything about till like right before. This is where that whole the plan is already laid out for you and where God comes in, little nuances that exist. I go and I don't love like 2-day weekend long events even. I struggle sometimes because they're really fluffy or you're just fire hosed. And I went in there knowing nothing about the person facilitating this event, nothing really about the speakers other than I had a friend who was going to be there. I was like, cool, yeah, I'm in, let's do it. And to say, I just went in there and just ended up being like so pleasantly, surprised and delighted. The room of ladies was awesome. They were very welcoming. It didn't feel so cliquey. I mean, there was definitely some of that, but it just felt different. And I found myself going, I wonder if this woman curates a room of ladies after this. Like, I wonder if she's going to pitch something. And this event was called the Pitch Club, led by a woman named Rebecca. And I end up deciding at the end, like, okay, I'm open. I'm gonna see what's next. Like, I don't need to buy a program or a course. It's not where I'm at. I want to be in a room of ladies that want to grow. And so at the end, that's kind of exactly what she really was creating, was a year-long mastermind focused on visibility and PR, which was like double whammy. Yes, these are both areas that I know I want to grow in. And I can't really put a pulse on it other than I had this feeling in my gut, like, ooh, I just feel like I need to say yes to this. And the cool thing about it is I had made other investments. I spoke a little bit about this on an episode at the end of 2024, like what I'm investing in and was sharing. And the most empowering thing about the conversation, well, 2 pieces, was I'd made many $25,000 investments in my business for programs or for experiences. And it's just interesting because they get less scary and less scary. And you just feel like you have really clear parameters on what you say yes to. So this just felt like I was actually for the first time saying yes to my heart and gut and not necessarily to my head, which is different for Amanda here. Usually I'm pretty tactical. I'm a solutioner. So he's got to make sense for me. And so I just felt it. And the really cool thing was I text Justin. I was like, hey, I think I'm actually going to invest in the community she's offering. Here's the situation. I wanted to check dates like, hey, are we good around these dates? And he just checked back and was like, we're good. And I trust you. And it like kind of brought tears to my eyes. I remember so clear. I was just like so grateful to have somebody that believes in me. But the cool thing that I feel like I want to give myself credit for is that when I've invested in my business, I put in the work and I get tenfold the ROI, which has to be what you do, what you're doing for yourself. So I sometimes have conversations, sales conversations with women, and like, I got to talk to my husband and I don't know what he's going to say. And the reality is, husbands are leery if you're not going in and making the thing work for you. If you're not taking ownership, if you're not doing the homework, if you're not being consistent. And so if you find that objective happening in your marriage, definitely it wasn't an easy conversation. The first time I was like, hey, I want to spend $25,000 on a coach or a community. He was like, what are you doing? And so he had to have faith and trust me. And he watched that played out and I could earn and show him like, yeah, of course, this is what we do. This is a part of our normal, right? And so I said yes to this community, not knowing anybody and just trusting my gut. And it was like so amazing. And so last week we were at our week-long event, a retreat. One of the cool things we're doing with this group is writing a collaborative book together and publishing a book. I've never done anything like that. I think it's a great taste to see if I want to write a book. But the event was in Palm Springs, by the way, so beautifully sunny weather. We stayed at this like private gated community that had 16 private villas in it. We took up 3 of them. So it was really cool to kind of move around between the 3 houses. We did a beautiful photo shoot, which I'm so excited to get those pictures and videos back soon. But I share this because what I went for is not what I got. And in the most awesome way. And I think this is true sometimes of all investments we make is we go in kind of tunnel visioned. And then if we're open to it and expansive enough, we're going to get way more and the stuff that we didn't ever know we needed. And one of the things I got is what inspired today's conversation. And it's around this notion of transparency and vulnerability and authenticity. And it kind of has stirred my soul up a little bit since being back. And I want to give that to you as well. And so one of our speakers was Tracy O'Malley. I'm going to drop her link here. She's awesome. She is an Enneagram expert. And you might think like, I know the Enneagram. Yeah. And I'm glad that you do. But I resisted it for a long time because I'm pretty protective over personality assessments and what they install in my unconscious mind because I just want to be me and I want to make my own decisions. And so I told Tracy, because I met her at an event, like I've been resisting, but if you come into my world, like I feel pretty connected, right? There's rapport here. There's a lot of similar values, kind of edginess, which makes perfect sense because we're both the same Enneagram. It ends Enneagram number. But here's what I kind of think. Like Tracy, as she says, I feel like she offers kind of a graduate degree in Enneagram rather than the traditional surface stuff that's offered. She really doesn't even focus on kind of the wings, and she offers like a deeper dive into your tri-type around the Enneagram. And so when she brought me kind of the specifics around my tri-type, you guys, I was in tears. I had never felt so heard, so seen. It was like she was looking through my soul, and it just gave me permission that I am good as me, and the way I think and the way I act is not wrong. It may be wrong for other people, but it is not wrong for me. And my tri-type, if you're wondering, would love to know yours. So come tell me on the gram, because I asked this question when I was learning and so many people were interacting. We were having these amazing conversations about the Enneagram because I'm totally geeking out about it now. And you might be like, Amanda, you're 20 years late. That's okay. Everything's right on time for me. But one of the hardest things for me as an 8 is to be vulnerable. And in fact, like the more I lean into that, the stronger I can become. And so what this has looked like in my life is I definitely have guards up. I have walls up. I have fear that if I share too much of myself, that my heart will be broken, and not by Justin. That's easy. He's my easy place. But specifically from female friendships, I have a fear that being vulnerable will portray weakness and like I don't have my stuff together and it's messy. And so there's this kind of resistance to being vulnerable. And I really think going on kind of my faith journey over the last couple of years has already done the work of softening this. A lot of the people in my life are like, wow, this is like a softer version of you. And because of that, it feels more approachable, right? And it's funny because the other thing about me or about eights is that I tend to be really good. I think the actual description is I'm a solution master. Like I see a problem and I am a solutioner, which makes me so great at what I do. It makes me a master. I like systems and processes, and I like things to very much create a flow of consistency. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much everything in my life. And exactly why I teach frameworks and why I'm great at coaching is because I don't tend to be pulled into victimness or poor me and emotion. And that makes me really great because I can swim or I can stand on the outside of the pool when my clients are swimming in it and be able to like rescue them. And so it was just so cool to see all of this at play as she was helping me see more of me. But it also helped unblock this like massive blind spot for me, which is female friendship. And this is the vulnerable part that I'm leaning into. Thank you for listening. But female friendship has always been hard for me. And I don't do things the same as a lot of other ladies. And people often tell me I'm intimidating, and I don't feel that on the inside. My insides don't feel that way. I've had people tell me you have RBF. I'm like, really? I don't feel that way. But what she helped reframe is it's not that it's wrong, right? It's that sometimes when you have this energy about you that it might feel intimidating for people to approach, or that their perception is they don't offer value. And I was like, oh, okay. This makes so much sense around some of the things that have happened in my life. And the girls at the retreat were just so amazing and like hearing and seeing and being honest with me about things. And I was kind of a heaping mess. Justin's like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm great. As I'm telling him, honestly, it was exactly what I didn't know I need. And I feel like it was so important. And so I'm sharing this not to give you like all the juiciness of my whole life, but maybe you can relate to that first off. But she said something in the delivery of this that hit this next level for me that I've really been sitting with. And it's this, that there's a difference between transparency and vulnerability. Transparency is when you can be totally open and honest about something that's already happened, something from the past. Vulnerability is when you can be totally open and honest about something that's happening right now. And I was like, oh, gut punch. I'm really great at being transparent, but I'm not great at being vulnerable, because what if you think I'm weak? What if you find out that I feel messy inside, that I'm sad, that I'm angry, and what might that make you think of me and the perceived, like, who I am? And I was thinking, oh my goodness, right? This is so powerful. I'm great at transparency. My challenge is to be great at vulnerability too, because I think that's what we're missing. And that's really, for me, what I think is going to make you the most amazing coach. We are in an age of artificial intelligence, like AI is everywhere. You can use it to write a framework if you wanted. You can use it to create a coaching model. I mean, I recently had a friend tell me she had AI build and map out her garden with companion plants so she knew exactly what to plant. I was like, really? What? You can use it to write your podcast. Heck, you could even use it to record your podcast. Did you know that? You can have it emulate your voice. That blows my mind. It's scary. But here's the thing I believe is that you will always have something up on AI. And that is the 3 words that I'm sharing: transparency, vulnerability, and authenticity. No AI technology can replace that. And that's why you and I right now are being called up to double down on that. If you're worried about all the stuff happening and how it's going to impact your business, like move that to the side. People are going to want connection. They already do. And that is why in our business, it's so important for you to find ways to be able to do that. When everybody else is trying to leverage the tools and trending and teaching the tools, I'm like, pump their brakes. Nope, not for me. And so the coaching industry needs more of you being you. It needs more of what we're talking about today. And I think people are starting to be able to sniff out a little bit like that fakeness. They're sniffing out the ugh. It feels bro-y. It feels contrived. It feels like it's like everybody else. So if everybody else is doing it, here's the thing. Zag when they're zigging, you zag. And so I just wanted to share maybe like 4 ways that I think that you can double down on this inside of your business. Because I don't know what to call it other than it's just a feeling where you feel connected, right? Because people are buying 2 things from you. They're buying the results you offer, and they're buying the feeling that they feel when they're in your presence, whether they feel empowered, inspired, clarity. There's just this unconscious thing that exists, and they may not know how to articulate it, but it's there. And so I know that many of you might be a little afraid to feel like totally authentic your entire time. You might feel this push, this resistance that exists, but I want to give you kind of maybe 4 tangible ways to double down on authenticity and vulnerability inside of your business. Okay. So this is where you get the pen and paper. 4 very tangible things. The first one is to do something that I call slay your dragons. Your dragons are the thing in the industry that piss you off. So right now, if you're a health coach, it might be Ozempic. If you're a business coach, it might be AI. I'm literally slaying a dragon as I talk. It might be the money machine, like make the 8 figures. If you're a teenage anxiety coach, you might slay the dragon of the cell phone and always being on. You got to talk about those things because those are the beliefs that set you apart. You got to talk about the things that make you angry so you can shift people's minds and create like an aha moment for them. If you're not talking about the things you're passionate about, nobody can feel that passion. Nobody can connect. So step number 2 is give us the behind the scenes of the real you. Like, what are the things that you read going to bed? What do you eat for breakfast? Are you working out? Are you packing the kids' lunches? Are you going on a date night? Are you taking care of elderly family? This is that unconscious building of authenticity and vulnerability that actually connects us the most. We're like, oh, she works out every morning. Like, that's important to me. What does she do for a workout? So what it does is it deepens the connection you have with your ideal clients. And you could share this in your stories. You could share this in shorts. You could share this in your, behind the scenes of a newsletter or something like this. But what I find it so interesting is people think that's boring, but that's actually bridging the gap between the two, you and your ideal client. It's like, oh, she is feeling me. She gets it. Number 3 is share the imperfections in the process. The times you fail, the times you don't have it all together, tell us, because that is when, like, you don't want a coach that's perfect. At least I don't, because then I don't relate to her. I want to know the times where she feels crappy because she's struggling between parenting and work. Because I'm like, oh, she gets me. It's such a common struggle. Right? But if your perception is always to show up perfect, then that's actually pushing your audience further away than closer. And lastly, the 4th tangible way is to share what's on your heart. Be vulnerable in real time. And I think this is differentness than sharing like being human and the imperfection, but being vulnerable is saying, I'm about to do this webinar and I'm so nervous. I hope people show up. I want you to show up. Right? Or I'm about to go on this stage and I have like this sinking feeling, right? Tell us what's happening in real time because that makes it extremely relatable. And all of these things collaboratively build rapport unconsciously with our people. And like begets like. The more we can stay top of mind, the more then when that client is ready to invest in the thing we have to offer, we are the easy solution. And so here is my thought. The way you are going to stand out is by doing things different than everybody. This is why building a framework is key. This is also why being you is key. We don't need more coaches. We need more coaches being themselves, because that is the differentiator. And I think that authenticity is really what people are searching for, even though they may not be able to like articulate that externally. It's what connects us. It's why sometimes we're turned off by professional videos or photos. We're like, yeah, but I want to know the behind the scenes. What's it like at her house? And so I just wanted to offer that reframe for you today of reminding yourself of being you is the most important thing you can do, being vulnerable, being authentic, being you, and then, of course, transparency through the process as well. So I hope this episode just resonates with you. I'm thinking of you. If it lands, would you please do me a favor? I'm kind of like standing from a mountain on this. I need more people to be reminded of this. So share this link with a coach, mentor, a friend that you feel like it would really resonate with. Just copy the link. You can drop it in their text message or in a DM or an email. And if you would just do me the massive honor of even screenshotting this episode, adding it to your stories, tagging me. And if none of those things feel aligned for you, just send me a message like over on Instagram at A Walk My Way is my handle. It's the place I love to hang out. And I'd love to hear from you about this episode specifically. So again, thank you for joining me as always. And I will see you next week. And until then, coach 'em up.